Hello everyone, I am Yugaank Pathak, enrollment number 0801CS221161. Welcome to the learning video of my project for the Skill Development Lab, subject code CO34451. You can see the project descriptions on your screens now. There are certain future enhancements that are possible in this project as the future scope. These include things like enhanced table detection, which is able to identify tables which have merged columns and later on even use OCR to detect image tables. Then multiple language support, which provides a accessibility to a broader audience. An interactive dashboard, which provides more tools like say pie charts or graphs instead of just tables to depict graphs and numbers. And then another thing that we can do is to export the PDF. We are currently using only PDF and XLSX files. Later on, we can add on the JSON or Markdown or Excel file. As currently, we are using only the .csv and PDF files. This is the quick start guide for a basic Flask application. Here we can see how we are defining an application from the Flask function, which app is equals to Flask having the attribute underscore name underscore. Then we are using the routing part. We're declaring a function hello, which returns a paragraph. We'll be implementing this later on. Now this is how we normally run a Flask function, but in my code, which I'm going to explain later on, I have demonstrated a better method which uses the app.run function, allowing us to ensure debugging on the web browser, which is very useful when we do development using Flask. This is a debug mode, and this is the type of errors we are able to visualize on our browsers, which are very useful in debugging. This is the routing part. Here is where we declare the various routes, say the URLs where we are going to access these functions or web pages later on. I have demonstrated this also in my code later on. Then these are some additional methods. Another, say, a different way to demonstrate the working of Flask, but I somewhat prefer the using these HTTP methods and this render template functionality of Flask because it is quite easy to use and we'll be using this. I will give a demonstration for this later on and I will try to explain how these things work, how the render template function works, what are the type of attributes it takes, what are the basic prerequisites it needs in order to function properly, etc. This is some more documentation. You can refer it for your own purposes. I would like to point out that there are other Flask functions like send from directory, which is used to display files from a local directory onto a web page. And we also have the URL for functionality. It is an inbuilt function in Flask, which is used in demonstrating local objects in the form of URL links on the web page, so that other people or even us as users can handle them on the browser application rather than to determine their working and location internally on a local device. So you can go through it later on if you want to. Now let us move to the demo part where I'll explain the basic functionalities of Flask, which are namely how we define the Flask variable, what are the basic methods of routing, and how do we use different instruments in routing. We can directly list an HTML page in the routing um, function or use the render template inbuilt function of Flask. We are going to see both approaches later on. So let us move forward with that. Here, I'll give you all a basic tutorial for the Flask framework that I've been using in my project. So we have our VS Codes open here, and let's open a new file, and it will be a Python file because Flask is a Python framework. So here, first of all, if you're a completely new user, you'll have to open the terminal, and then here in the terminal, give the command pip install Flask. This will install Flask and all of its the dependencies that are required for Flask to function correctly. And as you can see, I have already installed Flask on my system previously. So it says that all of the requirements are already satisfied. But in your system, if you're doing it for the first time, um, all these requirements will get installed, which are the Jinja 2 templatings and the Wizardbug system, and which is for debugging, and Flask itself. So let's now move forward. First of all, from Flask, we will have to import the libraries, and Flask is the most used one. Then here we'll declare an app variable. App is equals to underscore app underscore. Once we have done this, we can configure the various security keys, and the other standard folders or locations that we'll have to specify according to our projects. But here, as it is a basic project, we do not need to do much of it over here. So let us have a basic view of the documentation of Flask first. Okay, so here, this is how the basic Flask is structured, where in the underscore name, you can give any name to the application, say app or blog, summarizer, anything. Then which will be followed by an added app.route, which is basically the routing of the various web pages or various commands that you are using in the Flask. And it is basically returning a paragraph, which are the paragraph tags saying hello world. So let us first implement this code itself. We come over here. Let us just for the sake of simplicity use the name as a standard variable over here, which I think is the default practice. We'll have to use app is equals to Flask underscore name underscore, and then we'll define a route at the rate app dot route this directory. We'll define a home function which would, okay, so this is an error over here. We don't need to do this in Python. Return paragraph. This is our basic function. Let us make a couple more functions at the rate app dot route. Say this is f2 def second function, and then we say this one returns something, say para2. So this is our basic code structure of Flask. We'll just save it in this folder that we have created earlier on, and we just name it the first. Now we execute the code. and you see that nothing is happening. This is because in Flask, we also need to ensure that we call the run function, that is app.run function. And as we want to get debugging outputs on our the terminal, we say debug is equals to true. Now you will see that once we have written this statement app.run, so these app first declaration app is equals to flask underscore name underscore name, sorry, underscore, and then this app.run debug equal to true are the two statements that are the most essential statements of any Flask framework. Now let us visit this website, and we are seeing that hello Flask is the paragraph that we are seeing here. This is exactly what we have written here in our home function, as it is our base route. Now let's go to F2. When we go to F2 here, slash F2, C. This is our second function, which is returning the para2. This is how Flask basically works. There is another essential functionality of Flask, that is the render template functionality, which is basically used to express the HTML CSS front ends of the websites. So let us start integrating that here. So here is another functionality that I'm trying to explain to you in Flask. For this, a couple of things need to be done. First, we need to have a templates folder in our main folder and an example file, the layout.html file, is a very basic HTML structure file, which will be seeing how it is inflated and being visible to us on the URL, on the domain 127.0.0.1 on port 5000. This is the default port number on which Flask operates. So let us see how this works. We have set the methods also, the post and the get methods, and these will be used to determine the scope of these variables. So we launch, and then we see this is our IP, and this is how the basic web page is featuring. So it is a very simple approach of, like, the most simple approach that according to me, that I have used myself to deploy web pages, because it has a very good amount of inbuilt functionalities and uses. Now let us see if we want to integrate it over here also. We can use render template function. We will later on be making this file, so we just kept it here. Now once you've done this, we save this. In the templates, we go and make another file, and we call it layout2.html, and we paste our original file here, and we are going to make some modifications here and say second, and let's say for a change, we change this alert message to now. You see that it is already an automatic reload functionality, which automatically detects the change and reloads our application. This is what you see, that when we change something, there's a change detected and a reload occurs, and the application starts from the beginning. So now let us see what are the changes that we have made are, and if they're visible or not. So we come here and we reload. So this was just as it was because we have not changed this. This is the web page link that we have changed, F2. And as you can see, now we will be getting the second web page notification over here. And on this click me button, we have also changed the notification message. Now, as you can see, this is how we are using Flask. There are many functionalities, like sometimes we can pass even variables to the render template function, which can be used internally in the HTML code, but that is a bit of an example and an extension of what we are learning, but it's a bit advanced topic, so we'll not be covering it over here. And another thing is the use of flash messages, which use basic Bootstrap CSS templating to display their messages. Therefore, it is a dependent on the Bootstrap CSS. Therefore, we'll have to implement that over here, and then later on we'll be able to implement the Flash functionalities in Flask. So I hope I was able to explain some things to you about what I'll be using in my project. I have explained my project, and I've mentioned all the functions that I am using and how they're working. This was the first project using Flask for me, so it was a new experience, and I'll share it to you soon. So here is the basic front end and back end code for my application. As you can see, this is the main app.py file wherein we have all the imports that we need to use. OS for accessing the system, storage and other files. Fids, which is a library used in the table extraction functionality, and Flask is a framework that I have used in order to build this web application. So, and two PDF table API and two CSV are my own inbuilt functions that I have developed for the convenience purposes in this application. So, the first one is the syntax of how we declare an app variable in Flask. It is using the Flask function. Then I have configured the secret key, which I have stored in a static text file, just to ensure that I do not reveal it to the public in the GitHub repository for safety purposes. Then I have configured all the folders that I'll be using, the upload folders, the download folder, and the table folder, where I'll be listing all the tables on the local of my system. Then this is the path that I have defined. It is static for now as I'm using my local machine only for all the purposes here. Therefore, I've kept this static. Following that, we have the function, home function, whose route is defined at the host, say 127.0.0.1, and all the post and get methods are eligible to work at this address. The render template is a function inbuilt Flask function which inflates an HTML web page and casts it ensures that it is visible to the host at the local view. And I have supplied a title to the web page as summarizer home. Then we move on to the submit file option. This function checks for all the inputs that I have given at the home page, verifies them, and then adds it to the uploaded folder and saves the file at the file path. Then this is the function that I'll be using for the summarizers part. Therefore, it returns the gensum function, which we'll see later on in this video about how it works and gives us a summary of the PDF. Else, it will return an error that you have not uploaded a PDF file. The second functionality was the table extractor part. This function first reads the PDF. Again, the part as the function listed above, ensures that it is in the correct format, then calls the extract table function for that file, else will give out a warning that you have not uploaded a PDF file. Then this is the download page for summary. Here we have a flash message which appears on the top part of the screen when the summarization is completed, and it has a type success which gives it a green border. This is default using Bootstrap CSS. Then we call the toPDF function because we need to provide the summary in a PDF format also, which is available here. So then later on, we add that file to we list the files from the downloaded folder. And again, it is a render template function which pumps the download.html file. It has the summary download as the title and the text summary. Summary will be a toCSV.process of summy, which is a variable that I have defined herein, called from the function. And files are the files that have been listed in the download folder. Then this is the download tables function, which has the same task as the download function we mentioned earlier, but this is for the tables. Therefore, it will not have that toPDF functionality. This is just a helper function that I have devised for a summarizer function, whose main task is to extract the text from the PDF which has been uploaded by the user, and then it returns that text to the function. This was the main gen sum function that I was talking about earlier. Here, first of all, extracted text from PDF is the function here I've defined earlier, and it extracts the text and then sends that text to the API.summarize function as extracted text, which returns here the summary. Partwise summary is the third functionality here which I've undertaken, and it gives a small brief text summary of the certain top domains in the field of budget. This is the location where the summary file is being saved on my local system, and this is how the summary is being written there. That file is then converted to a CSV file and displayed onto the web page. And so is the partwise summary that is also displayed onto the web page. This is the extract table function we use for extracting the tables in the module function I showed earlier. Table.getTables. Table is another module that I have created, and getTables is a function which uses which is used to extract the tables from the PDF. Then these are the two functions which are used to send the files from my local directory onto the web application from which users can download and view these files. Then here is the small function which is the function which calls the app and starts the process. Debug equal to true ensures that if any trouble arises, I'll be able to debug the problems onto the browser itself. Now we move on to the API part. I have used a Google Generative API for my application, which uses a Gemini 1.5 Flash model. I have configured the API key again in a static folder to ensure that it doesn't get out in the public domain. Then this is the summarize text function, which uses certain instructions which I have specified here, and then the text from the PDF to generate a response, which is then sent to the front end and listed. This is another function which provides me the basic text function summary of the key domains in the field of economics and lists them in the output file. Not the file, sorry, output web page. Okay, so this was the part where I explained how the generating summary application of my software works. Now, let us move to the backend part of the extract table functionality that I have developed. So, we have a file tables.py which uses the PDF plumber library of inbuilt Python library and pandas, which is used in data manipulation to extract the tables from the PDF that is being uploaded. Delete is a module that I have created which is just used to clear any pre-existing files in the directory that are already present when the application was first run. Then this is the function of how I define the processing of the PDF. I have described from the range where the PDF should work on. I have purposefully chosen 34 because that was the need of the current um, domain that I have been working on. Else this can be made to start from zero and will traverse the entire range of the PDFs. There was certain redundancy in the document that I was assigned to summarize. Therefore, I had to make this static here. Then this is the page.extract tables function, which I have called here. This is the inbuilt function and will extract the tables. Then it will enumerate that if the tables are of a smaller length, say are containing only the heading part or are empty in some sense, so they will not be listed. Else they will be listed as a data frame, pandas.data frame, where table 1 semicolon represents that the first topmost row will explain the table headings, and then there are the columns later on, which are numbered 0 to n, say for the table. It is a variable. df.toCSV. Again, this is the toCSV function that I have developed, which converts these tables to CSV tables and then lists them in the application. Here is the toCSV function. This is the CSV function that we have used earlier, which just converts them to the CSV using the delimiter. This delimiter has been set in the text output of the API, and if there is some errors or inconsistencies, we'll skip those files, those lines, and after that we'll save the summary to the data frame dot 1.2 data frame 1.2 CSV function, which has been called earlier on. Then this is the process function which we have used in the tables.py file, wherein the sections will be split using the double hash symbol. Then extra space will be stripped. Extra spaces, basically this is the function which makes the raw data from the API into a more readable format so that appears as a presentable data in the web page. Then after we have done this, I will show you the two PDF function which was used earlier in the completion for the PDF summarizer part. So this is the function which converts the text file to the PDF file. We have set default text for now because it was not that big a deal to set default text. Then, and it is not necessary to take those as a user input because of the scope of the project. So this is how it basically works. These are default Python functions, so not much to discuss here, I guess. So now I've completed the basic explanation part of the front end, wherein I have showed you all the functions that exist, the methods that have been used, the methods that I have developed, and along with those, the methods that are present inbuilt in Flask or other Python libraries. Now we will move to the one last function, which is the delete.py. This is just the function I showed you in the earlier parts, which is used to clear all existing files from the directory if there exists some. Host.py is just an extra file. It has no functionality here. Then I move on to the front end part. Here you can see that I have used these tags to implement Bootstrap CSS, and these required meta tags. Now here we have used Jinja templating, which is basically allowing us to write the basic template of our web page onto just one file, and then we are able to add on to it in the main content part by just using the templating functionalities. This part is for the title of the page, where in the title is passed as an variable to the function, else Flask block is the default name which I have set here for my functionality application. Now this is the crucial part. This is how the main templating part works. This content block, as you can see here, is used for that purpose only, which allows me to use this HTML document as a template for other document that I will show you later on. This is the very basic CSS that we'll be using. Not much to see over here, just fixed and some fixed functionalities that I have implemented. So now this is the home page. As you can see, I've used the extends layout.html file which I have shown you earlier, and then the content block. This will basically ensure that I have the proper templating for everything, plus I'll not have to write that code redundantly every time. This is the benefit we get from the Jinja 2 templating engines. Then this is the smaller functions. These are the download table function, which uses the URL for Flask functionality, which provides every file on the listed serve file feature as a HTML link, which can be viewed in the browser or using the .csv reader in the browser itself. Same part for the download.html file. Here you can see that we have used basic CSS to ensure word wrapping and proper display of the summary. So this was all about the structure of my project. Here are the static files. These are the API keys and app keys which I have kept private. Then these tables and downloads are the default functions that I have set, where the tables will be saved and all the downloads will be saved respectively. Templates contain all the HTML front-end part, and these Python functions are what I have used to develop and implement the functionalities in this project. Now I will show you the working part of my project. One thing that I forgot to share early on is the spinner, the loader that I've implemented here. This is the CSS for the spinner, as you can see here, and the spinner that we have assigned. Initially, it will be not visible, but then on clicking the buttons, the function will be called. This function that I've used here, this is basic JavaScript function, which will be called, and then the spinner will be called and will start to execute until the process is completed and we are directed to the new web page. So when I press this run file button, we will see that our application will enter execution phase and will be hosted locally at this IP address 127.0.0.1 on port number 5000. We go to this link and this is how it appears. This is the first functionality, the budget PDF summarizer. So let us see its execution here. We will choose a file. This is our budget speech for the budget 2024. This, we click on the summarize icon. We start to see a loading spinner which tells us that the work is in progress and the PDF is being summarized. So here you can see that we have a summary for agriculture, the service sector, the manufacturing sector, and the taxes. These are the four main domains for any budget. And here we can see a table of the budget. We are using a CSV viewer to view this inside our browser. Now here we can see the category. These categories, these are the allocation changes which will show the amounts or changes, and these are the details of the category, the brief explanation about the various domains. We can see that it has covered all the domains and it also gives proper explanation of all the fields that it is summarized. Now let us see the summary PDF. We open link in new tab and we see that this is how we get the PDF. This can easily be downloaded from here, or the second thing which we can do is just click on it and it will get automatically downloaded. But We have set the default for the PDF to the Adobe PDF viewer, therefore it will be viewed here. We can change these settings in your individual browsers and we will have no issues in um, performing those actions. Now, here are some error checks that I have put in. Say if someone does not upload a PDF file and presses summarize, it will have a pop-up which says please select the proper file. Another thing that we can check here is, for example, if I go and upload another of some image, I guess, say Ganesh Chaturthi is around the corner. So it will not allow me to upload any of those image files. It will only allow me to view and upload PDF files. So this is an only image file. We will not be able to add that here. Then this is the second functionality, table extractor. This also has those precautions which allow me to choose the proper file format. So let's say we choose this PDF right here and we press extract. There's the progress bar here which tells us works in progress, and then these are listed files which can again be viewed in the CSV viewer. These tables they have a proper heading which describes what these columns express and therefore are very useful in understanding the basic outlay of the system. We can see that this is a file which explains the enrollment duration, expenditure, beneficiaries, and the amounts. Say beneficiaries in like implies that these are the number of people who the government plan to provide these facilities to, and the center outlay is the amount that they are willing to spend. Then duration is in years, and so is the enrollment duration. So these are some parameters which are expressed in a very clear way, so anyone will be able to understand and analyze these tables easily. Then we move back. Another thing that I have implemented here is that we choose a table, suppose which has no files or tables, as we're calling here, and we select open and then extract. We will get the message that sorry, no tables are found. So I have put in the correct error messages and the checks in this functionalities, which will ensure that yes, this is a very solid and proof software. So thank you. I have completed my explanation in this learning video, and I have a few learning outcomes that I would like to share here with you. So the learning outcomes of this project are, first, the exploration of Flask framework. This was my first project with the Flask framework where I used functions like URL for render template and all other functionalities, which was a very pleasant experience for me. It is a very powerful software library in Python. Then second thing is Python itself, which helped me to integrate various functionalities due to their existing libraries, some that I have developed myself, and how to integrate them into a proper functioning project. The third thing was the use of Jinja templating, which helped me to understand how we can use templating to reduce code redundancy, and then API integration, as I have used certain APIs, Google APIs and all. So they taught me how to integrate external APIs onto your system so that you're able to provide better functionalities. And the last point was that how to build a rigorously tested and consistent system which will handle all the test cases in a very graceful way so that the users are in a more they feel more control over the software and in a comfort zone. Thank you.